And then because I knew how to work with the Akashic Records, I started using the Akashic Records, and that became a single point of light that was at the end of the tunnel, that gave me the opportunity to move out of the space where I was, to not experience any pain, to not experience any suffering, or to overcome the suffering in an easy way with the understanding of impermanence. But it came to a point in which I realized that the single most significant and important tool for me is the teaching of the Akashic Records. And that is basically what guides my life to make significant decisions, the little decisions, everyday decisions. I don't need to go to a higher dimensional level to get those answers.
What if every moment from every lifetime was recorded? And what if you could actually access this information for your own healing and benefits and to unlock your highest and greatest potential? Well, my guest today is Ernesto Ortiz, who is an expert in the Akashic Records. And today he's going to share the map of the Akashic Records and how he works with the masters and teachers to unlock this vital information to help you. He teaches this all around the world, and I am so excited that he is joining us today from France. So, Ernesto, welcome and thank you for joining us.
Laurie, thank you so much for the invitation. I appreciate it.
So, in addition to you being an expert in the Akashic Records, I understand that you've also had two near death experiences. And since my audience loves to hear about near death experiences, and I would imagine this is part of why you've taken this Akashic journey, would you mind sharing those with us first?
Before we get going, do you mind if I take a little step back with
Sh-
you?
Absolutely.
And I would ask you and your audience, whomever is going to be listening or watching this in the near future, to join me in this moment, join us in this moment by bringing our attention to our heart. So if that's okay with you, I would like to do a mini meditation with you.
Yes, I would
Okay.
love that. Yes,
Okay.
please.
Okay, great. So let's go ahead and close our eyes for a moment and take a nice, deep, long breath. And as you exhale, gently drop your attention to your heart. And with each subsequent breath that we take, we allow our hearts to expand more and more. We connect with Source. We connect with the masters and teachers, the Lords of Akasha. We connect with divinity. And we allow for our hearts to expand and for this interview to be filled with joyous, wonderful information for whomever is watching this now or in the future. I may the link that we are creating between your heart and my heart last for the duration of this session. And at the same time, may this interview be for our highest good and the highest good of all concerned. Another deep breath. Thank you for taking this time with me, Lori.
Oh, that was beautiful. Thank you so much for doing that. I think that
Thank you.
it's really funny that you would do that. So I do something similar before I do my interviews because I always want this to come from the highest and greatest good. So I think it's a great reminder too for the audience.
Good. Now, you asked me a question about my death experiences.
Yes. However, you would like to share those.
Um, I was born in Mexico City, and that seems like a lifetime ago, or 2 or 3 lifetimes ago. And I thought I was like the strongest swimmer alive or whatever it was. And in Acapulco, in Mexico, there is a beach. It's called El Revolcadero, which means, translates to the tumbling beach. The waves are huge. And I was this little boy, super confident, swimming, crashing into the waves. And in one of those occasions, this wave just hit me so hard that I completely lost consciousness. And then I start going down. And on my way down into the unconscious, I heard this voice. I went through the whole process of going through the tunnel, lights flashing on the sides, and I felt like I was going down like a toboggan, a curvy road, to the point that I saw a big bright light with an image that came out of it. I could not distinguish the image, but just an image. And we started a dialogue. And in that dialogue, this image said to me that I am at a point of no return, that if I wish, I could just continue and just continue moving to the other side, or to come back again to complete my lifetime. So obviously I was a kid. I said, no, I want to go back. And the moment I said I want to go back, I regained some of my consciousness. And what I realized, or what I saw, were bubbles, little tiny bubbles of air coming out of my nose or my mouth. And the bubbles were going up and I was going down. I had physically no strength whatsoever to swim back up to the surface, but I had that realization. And what happened at right around that time is this man jumped into water. He was somewhere nearby, picked me up and took me to the beach, gave me mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. I came back. By then, my family realized that I was on the sand. Everybody rushed to where I was. And when I looked to the side, this man was about a half a block away on the sand, walking away, and I could never say thank you to him. That is the first time that this happened. It was really a life-changing experience for a kid of 12 years old. The second time that this happened to me was in the same place in Acapulco, a different beach. I was with two friends, and we bought some rum and some of the small bottles of Coke. We dumped about 3/4 of the Coke, filled the rest with rum. I was not a drinker at all, and I got terribly drunk. So the last thing that I remember was walking into the ocean and going, oh my God, my watch is not waterproof. One of these super fancy watches that my mom had given me for my high school graduation. And that is the last memory, basically. I woke up the next day on an isolated, completely deserted beach. I was filled with sand, head to toe, in every place possible. I washed myself off on the sand and I started walking. But, I knew that I was in front of the hotel where I was with my two friends. But then I was walking on this beach and there was nothing there. So a little old man walked by and I stopped him and I said, hey, excuse me, where is Acapulco? And he looked at me and goes, well, that's way out there. And I go, well, what do you mean way out there? And he goes, you're in Cihuatanejo, a beach close to it, which is a good 20 minutes by car from Acapulco to this beach. And so I washed myself up. I hitchhiked going back. I asked my friends in the hotel what happened. They said, we don't know. You walked into the ocean and then you disappeared, and that's the end of it. So for many years, I did not know what happened. This was so deeply buried in my subconscious mind, but it was one of those incredible adventures. But what came to me later on in life, during an ayahuasca experience actually, is that the same man that rescued me on the beach when I was 12 years old is the same man that created like a raft out of himself, and an angel was the only thing that I can think of, and just took me to a place where I could be safe. So that was my second life-changing experience that truly has impacted the rest of my life. About 8 years ago, I was about a second and a half away from being crushed between two cars. So death has been following me the majority of my life. I have had some near-death experiences under the influence of teacher plants, but those are different. Those are completely different. These are actual life experiences in which I had to be brought back and my life changed as a result of that. So those are the two experiences that I can share with you. The second one is pretty bizarre, but that's what happened.
Wow. Well, those are incredible experiences. And
Yeah.
obviously, that one at the age of 18 had another profound experience because it sounds like your life went in a different direction after that. And you became somehow you found or they found you these Akashic records. So, will you talk a little bit about your journey to this? And then will you share with us what, for the people who are watching who don't know, what are the Akashic records?
Sure. My spiritual life started when I was quite young, probably 7, 8 years old. My family was a well-to-do family in Mexico City. They owned coffee plantations in the state of Veracruz. So anytime there was a vacation, we went to the finca, to the ranch. And for me, instead of staying with my cousins and learning how to play chess and things like that, I kicked off my shoes and I went to be with the workers. The workers, little by little, accepted me because I was the son of the owners. But at the same time, they saw something in me and they invited me to their homes where I sat with them on the floor eating rice, beans, and tortillas. And at the same time, the shamans of this group of about 80 people that moved from one finca to the next, I started doing shamanic ceremonies. I had no idea what they were as a kid, but started using smoke and alcohol and plants, and they were beating me up with the plants and the things. And I'm going, oh my God, this, I don't know what this is, but I like it. It's a completely different world than the world of professional bankers and dentists and architects and all that of my family. So what happened is that little by little, by being with them, they opened my third eye. By the time I was 12, 13 years old, my third eye was wide open. Um, one of the ceremonies that this shaman was doing was with an egg. I was 12 years old, and he was rubbing the egg on this woman's body. And when he finished and cracked the egg, what came out was black like molasses. And I said at that moment, I said, wow, I don't know what that is, but I want to learn how to do that. So that affirmation was truly the turning point in my life to start going deeper into my path of self-discovery and spirituality. I was always attracted to religion, mysticism, folklore, and that sort of thing. I was an altar boy. I was a Catholic upbringing until they kicked me out because I was drinking the wine, getting into trouble. And then I started asking questions to the priest to understand how the mind operates and where emotions and beliefs come from. And I start asking these questions, and they could not give me the answer. They just say, it's faith, it's faith, it's faith. And I said, well, I need something more than faith. I need to understand. So I left the Catholic religion and I found myself in Southern California. I moved from Mexico to Southern California by myself when I was 18 and a half years old. I discovered Zen Buddhism, and that was the beginning of my understanding of meditation as a practice. And then from that moment on, everything just kind of evolved to the point of start reading deeply mystical books, Madame Blavatsky, many other mystics. So I learned the intellectual part of what the Akashic Records are. And I thought that I had a good understanding with that intellectual part, but I also know, and I knew back then, that the intellect is not sufficient, that intellectual understanding doesn't lead to wisdom, that intellectual understanding has to be filtered or passed through the body of emotions to be fully integrated. And once that body of emotions fully integrates the material that is in the mind, then transforms into wisdom. And that's what I have been looking for all of my life. And so at a young age of 17, 18, I discovered magic mushrooms. And those just kind of
Yep.
completely blew my mind. They opened my mind, a young kid, to these dimensions that were just mystical, wonderful. I have never had a bad trip in my entire life. It just has been just so magical for me. And so little by little, I started integrating the different aspects of spirituality. I discovered Tibetan Buddhism, which is my personal private practice today, and what has given me over the past many years the answers that I wanted to have as to how does the mind operate and what is the relationship between the mind and belief systems, and how the mind and the beliefs create the reality that we are living. Then I also realized that my family had many old and antiquated belief systems that came from 3, 4, 5 generations back. And then I started looking at my own life saying, well, these are old and antiquated. They don't fit the type of person that I am. So I started working with teacher plans. I started getting certified in holotropic breath work, all of these deep inner practices to arrive at a point of understanding how the mind operates and how the mind, together with beliefs and emotions, create the reality that I am living. And if that was the case, then I understood that I could change anything. I could change everything. I can change my beliefs. I can change or master my emotions. I could live a life, the life that I'm living today, which is the life of my dreams. So in this whole process, I moved from California to Southern Florida to Miami, made some friends, and then someone told me that there was a woman coming to Miami to teach the Akashic Records. So I remember the first time that I heard that word, Akashic Records or Akasha, and even today just gives me goosebumps. There's something about this word Akasha that is so big that I needed to understand. Well, back in those days, I was teaching massage techniques at a local school. I couldn't go to that weekend retreat, but my friend said to me a few months later, do you want me to open your Akashic Records? And I said, yes, absolutely. I don't remember what she said to me, but I remember having this feeling of these doors that open, and for this energy, the masters, the lords of Akasha, saying to me, welcome home. And I knew that I had found something unique that transformed my life. Soon after that, maybe 4 years later, I guess I'm a slow learner, I started to teach the material of the Akashic Records. Then Hurricane Andrew came through Miami, Florida, 27, 28 years ago and completely wiped me out. I lost my 3 businesses. I lost my apartment. I lost everything. And I found myself living in my car. So living in my car for 2 weeks, I experienced what we know as the dark night of the soul, just a place that had absolutely no way out. However, in that deep space, I knew that there was something very rich, that I had created that condition in order for me to learn something about myself that was bigger than the limited understanding that I had up to that point. And then, because I knew how to work with the Akashic Records, I started using the Akashic Records, and that became a single point of light that was at the end of the tunnel. And I started navigating these dark inner spaces with the guidance of the Akashic Records, the belief that what I was receiving was for my highest good. And I started using the Akashic Records to bring myself out of that dark night of the soul and to start recreating my life, which I did in a few short years, and then to started continue to teach the Akashic Records, but from a point of not the intellectual knowledge of what Akasha is, but the practical application of the teachings, my teachings, the teachings of my teachers about the Akashic Records, that gave me the opportunity to move out of the space where I was, to not experience any pain, to not experience any suffering or to overcome the suffering in an easy way with the understanding of impermanence that also came from Tibetan Buddhism. So what I do is I have in my life, I have taken so many retreats because I have been hungry to understand that it got to a point in which I just had so many different tools, but it came to a point in which I realized that the single most significant and important tool for me is the teaching of the Akashic Records. And that is basically what guides my life to make significant decisions, the little decisions, everyday decisions. I don't need to go to a higher dimensional level to get those answers. I'm wise enough, and I believe so much in myself that I can take or make my own decisions without having to go to Akasha and ask for answers. However, important decisions about my life, my teachings, I do bring them to the Akashic Records. Now, in order for your viewers to understand what the Akashic Records are, I think that first we have to understand what Akasha is.
Okay.
Akasha is a field of unlimited potential, a field that is everywhere in the universe, that wraps from the smallest of cells in our bodies to the largest of planets. Is this very dense field that luckily by now with science, we have had the scientific proofs through quantum physics and other means that validate this field. And Professor Irving Laszlo, a scientist that has studied the Akashic Records, the Akashic fields for a long time, finally gave, with a team of scientists, a name to this field, and they called it the Akashic Fields. As a field that comes from, that is very dense, that is present everywhere, and moves very slowly from past to present and will continue into the future. What they say, which we knew at a spiritual level, at a metaphysical level, is that Akasha is this dense field that records information of any living organism. And any living and everything is a living organism on the universe. And those living organisms are constantly giving an output of energy that the Akasha or the Akashic fields are recording. Now, if we cannot perceive or feel the Akashic fields right now, it's because we are not fine-tuned to that energy. We are, in a way, too dense because of the programming that exists through all of our lives, our cultures, etc., that holds us back. So it's like the carbon self, which is a part of the self that keeps us numb and dumb, is fully awake and is not allowing us to advance properly, to be able to enter other dimensional realities. So that's why when we use teacher plants, mushrooms, ayahuasca, San Pedro, anything like that, then we are capable of disconnecting the conscious mind and go higher into a dimension that is normally not available to us, but is available during those higher states of consciousness or awareness. Now, the beauty of Akasha is that we don't have to take any teacher plant, anything at all, to create that mental shift. And what happens is that the more that we work with sacred energy, and that sacred energy could be the sacred energy of Akasha or other types of modalities, meditations, etc., that brings our mind to a higher level of frequency. So what happens, the more we do that, the more we engage in this type of practice, the more we let go of the carbon self and we begin to awaken the crystalline nature. So the moment we awaken that crystalline nature, then higher dimensional frequencies become available to us. So within the Akashic fields, if you think about this substance that is present everywhere in the universe. I call it the connective tissue of the universe. And the metaphor is the connective tissue that is in our physical bodies. So our bodies are filled with connective tissue that is wrapping the smallest of cells, the largest of organs, bones, etc., etc. So if our body, if someone was able to take all of the connective tissue outside of our bodies will simply, our organs will simply collapse. So that would be the same thing that would happen to the universe without this substance. And the primordial quality or primary quality of this substance called Akasha is love. This is a field of unlimited potential of love. So what that means is that the output of energy of every planet, every star, every nova, every supernova, every stellar nursery in the universe is giving an energy output that the Akasha or the Akashic fields are recording. Okay, so that's a big explanation to hopefully understand the vastness of the universe and how this substance is present everywhere. Now, that is pretty big, even for me to understand the totality of that. So let's reduce that to our planet Earth. So our planet Earth is a living organism that is beating all the time, that is, it's a live organism. So Mother Earth is giving an output of energy that is being recorded by the Akashic fields or the Akashic records of Mother Earth. So we can say that from the moment of the inception of the Earth to the present moment, there's a recording in the Akasha from the energy that the Earth has created over the past thousands and thousands of years, millions of years. Okay, so now we understand that the Earth as a living organism is giving an output of energy that the Akasha is recording. Now, let's reduce that one more time to cultures, different cultures. And we can see how the Middle Eastern culture and the Asian culture and the Latin culture, all of these cultures have like a theme running around their culture that is carried on from past to the present. We can see this with the conflicts in the Middle East and all of these, and how things don't change for hundreds, if not thousands of years. So those cultures are putting an output of energy that the Akasha is recording. So there is the Akashic records of that culture or the many different cultures that are present on the earth. Now, let's reduce that one more time. And now it's getting interesting because we're reducing it to our family. And now we can see the dynamics of our family, the karma that revolves around the family, the hidden things in the closet, the things that are not so hidden in the closet, the dynamics, the anger, the money, the this and that, all these that's being carried over from one generation to the next, to the present one, and the dynamics that exist within our family is being recorded by the Akasha. So we have within our family Akashic records, the recording of these interactions and all of this energy that has been present within our family dynamics from generations back to the present. Now, the next one is we're going to reduce it one more time to ourselves. And that's when it gets really super interesting.
I think that's what everybody's waiting for.
Hey, we're getting there. So the Akashic records are the progression of our soul's evolution from the moment of our soul's inception to the present moment. So I am going to assume that most people that are going to be watching your program believe in past lives, reincarnation. So from the moment of our soul's inception, meaning our first lifetime, to the present, how many lifetimes have we lived? I know that I'm an old soul. I have lived hundreds and hundreds of lifetimes. So this lifetime is a sum total of all of our life's experiences, and we are reaping in this lifetime what we have sown in previous lives. So the Akashic records are the recordings of our life's interactions. And in so many ways, I tell my students, forget about past lives. They're really, to me, they're really not that important. Yes, I have been a king, a queen, a prostitute, a beggar. I have been everything. A thief. Probably I have killed you in a previous life. Who knows? You
And
know.
male and female too, I think that's something difficult for people to understand that we are everything, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. So knowing that I have been everything, and this is the sum, this lifetime is the sum total of all of my lifetimes, then this is the lifetime that is important to me. So the Akashic Records, being past and present and the possibility of unfoldment of future events, means that we can enter into the Akashic fields, into our own Akashic records, and navigate this field and look at all of the life impressions that we have created. To me, there is no better tool. I have not found a better tool in my 70 years of life to found something that is a better tool to clean up karma. You
Okay,
know,
so before we go on, I really need you to explain from your perspective what karma is to you. I have my own ideas, and it seems like there are so many. And a lot of times, what I feel like karma seems to be to spiritual people what hell is to religious people,
no, 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 no,
meaning that, and I don't think it's
no, no, no,
that. So, will you
no.
explain what it is and how it works from your
Sure.
perspective?
The first thing that we need to understand is that karma is neutral.
Good.
Okay.
Okay.
So when we
Yes.
use the word karma, many people go, oh la la, negative karma, bad things. Ooh, no, 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 absolutely not. Karma is neutral. Karma is the law of cause and effect.
Yes.
As you give, you receive. So if I am involved in life, creating negativity, being critical to others, being angry, being jealous, having negative thoughts, then that is going to create negative karma. If I'm going to be benevolent, I'm going to be kind, compassionate, loving, etc., then I'm going to create positive karma. There are, in fact, three types of karma. There is mental karma, physical karma, and word karma. Okay.
Okay, I've never heard this before from anybody.
Well, there you go. So mental karma means that the brain is creating a vibration that goes outside of the brain. It is, science has proven this. I wish I could show you the slideshow that I just showed to a big symposium. 300 people were in this audience to show you exactly what happens in the brain to the neurons, to the hundreds of thousands of bundles of neurons in the brain, and how they respond to thought. Okay, so by thinking in a negative way, we are creating an output of energy that goes outside of our own heads and is going to impact either in a negative or a positive way the world around us. That is mental karma. Okay, voice karma is quite clear. You say bad words to someone, you get angry with someone, you say, oh, you blah, 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 blah. So that's voice karma is the second type of negative karma. And we use our bodies. That's the third one, the physical karma that is going to impact somebody else physically. When you slap somebody, when you become very aggressive and you come in front of someone and you go shout and scream. So that's using the physical body, and that also creates karma. So there's three types of karma, and at the same time, there are three types of seeds of karma. So this first type of seed of karma is the seed of karma that we plant today, and we call it instant karma. You do something negative, you scream at someone, you throw your fist at someone or whatever, and you take 3 or 4 steps and you fall in a hole and you break your telephone. Okay, that's instant karma. Okay, the second type of karma is the seed of karma that we plant sometime in this lifetime. Let me give you an example. during childhood. Okay, I was not a bully in my childhood. Actually, I was the one that received the punishment from the bullies. But just imagine that I was a bully in this lifetime, and at school I beat up other children to take away their lunches because there were better lunches than me. Okay, now the actions that we have taken can never be erased, but the emotional imprint left by those actions can be erased. So the second type of seed of karma is the one that we plant sometime in our childhood or during our lives, and later on in life, 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years later, when the conditions and circumstances are just right, this karma is going to sprout, and you're going to come across that person that you beat up when you were a child. Now, for some reason, you got weak because you got sick because of the negative energy. That person said when he was a child, I will never be beat up by somebody else. So got really strong. You come across each other and he's going to say, oh, I remember you. You're the one that took away my sandwich and beat me up. Boom. Okay. At that moment, you just paid the karma, the seed of karma that sprouted, and you pay from a seed that you planted in a previous life. I'm sorry, early in this life. Now, the third type of seed of karma is the one that we plant in this life, and it doesn't sprout until the next life. Let me give you an example of this. Imagine that you were in a convent, okay? You were the youngest of 3 sisters, and so they put you in a convent because that's what religion did back in those days. Now you see your 2 other sisters married, with very nicely dressed, with money, with children, and you are in the convent with these robes. Maybe you are a very good artist. Your art is being sold for profit, but the church keeps the money. You create a contract with celibacy. So you become more and more frustrated because you want to have what your sisters had. So it gets to a point in which you have regrets, you're angry, and whatever it is in our consciousness at the moment of death, that is what gets transferred from one life to the next. So our soul or consciousness, we can call it the same thing, is basically the same thing. So if we die in a previous life, frustrated because of vows of celibacy and vows of poverty and that sort of thing, then the imprint in our consciousness at the moment of death is going to come back to us to the next life, which for many is this life. And then in this life, we have problems with relationships. We don't trust the other person. We don't know how to, we make money, but we leak it away. So all of these are things that interweave with the understanding of the Akashic Records. Because once we have the understanding of karma, and once we have the clear vision or memory of something that we have created in the past, then it's so easy to clean up that karma. Following the example that I gave you of, let's say, me beating up another child to take their lunch away, what I said is that the action can never be erased. The fact that I punched someone and I became very aggressive, that can never be erased. But the emotional imprint left behind by these actions, that can be erased. And
So
that is
how do
the
we do
beauty.
it? How do we do it?
And that is the beauty of the Akashic Records. In most cases, traditional therapy is linear. So you go from point A, meaning the present, to the past in a very slow, linear way. But with the Akashic Records, when we create this mental shift, we can enter into this dimension that is known Akasha. And since we know that it moves very slow from past to present, and it will continue into the future, something that happened here, let's say, something that happened when I was 16 years old is only right here, and this is today. So it's not that far off in the field of Akasha, understanding that these are impressions within the Akashic field, and they remain there. They move very slowly, but they remain recorded in this field. So by creating this mental shift with the Akashic Records, with the prayer, with the sacred prayer, it's as if we can take point A and point B and bring them together. I usually have a piece of paper and I fold it together. And then point A and point B are now connected in the now. So what that means is that by being inside of the Akashic Records, we can navigate easily in time to the past, to the moment of the inception of that negative energy, that negative karma. So the consciousness that I have today can go back and dialogue with the consciousness that I had back then. And then the consciousness that I had back then, with the understanding that I'm giving it from the consciousness that I have today, then that consciousness back then can dialogue with the child that I harm and ask for forgiveness. Forgiveness is the most delicious tool to be able to progress in our spiritual evolution. We are not going to be able to progress in our spiritual evolution if we have issues of forgiveness with anyone. It's as if we tie a chain in our ankle, and the other end of the chain is in the ankle of that other person. So we can only go as far in our spiritual evolution as the length of that chain between you and that person, based on lack of forgiveness. So when we forgive, we remove the shackles, we remove the chains, and we liberate the emotion that has been trapped based on the actions that we had back then.
Oh my gosh. All
It's
right, so
beautiful.
my mind is thinking, so the people that are watching, if this is a brand new concept and they've never heard of anything like this before, I think a lot of people have, as they evolve and they become better and they expand awareness to understand that love is really the goal that we're trying to achieve. They do go back in their memory, to your point, to their 16-year-old self, to their 30-year-old self, and they remember all of these different things. So let's say that I, as a person, wanted to change this karma from my past. Would I sit down and go through my life and write down all of the incidents that I can think of, and would I connect them to a person, and then would I sit down and do something with that information specifically? Is that the best way? Are there other ways? Like, what would you suggest to somebody who's watching? Like, how do they heal this?
Well, depending on the severity of the issue, okay? And this we can also call fragmented pieces of the soul. And they can be mildly fragmented, medium, or severely fragmented. So whenever an incident like this happens, we create a soul disconnect, okay? So the first step is to learn how to open your Akashic Records. That's the first step. I have a book out in the US in English. There are 3 other books, and another book is coming out by next September, in which I take the reader step by step through the process of opening, understanding Akasha, and opening their own Akashic Records. Now, to me, nothing replaces the opportunity to be in the presence of a teacher, because when we're in the presence of first of all, if we read a book, that becomes intellectual understanding. And the longest journey that we can take in life is from here to here.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Is the path of the heart. That's why I call my company Journey to the Heart.
Oh,
Because that is my journey. So when we understand that is the journey that we want to take, by being in the presence of a teacher, a qualified teacher, you have to question your teacher. Don't just take it for granted, because we are living in the age of the spiritual supermarket. And there are hundreds of thousands of consumers, but there has to be also the provider. And many of the providers are not qualified to teach some material that they are teaching. They have not integrated that intellectual understanding with the wisdom. So you have to be mindful about that. But you find a qualified teacher, you learn how to open your own Akashic Records, and then you begin to practice. The Akashic Records are like a muscle. that you have to work little by little to get stronger and stronger. The more you go in and out of Akasha, the more you sit with your Akashic records to meditate, to play music, to read, to paint, to do something, then the Akashic records become the foundation that will elevate to the next level of your own potential, whatever it is that you're doing. And that includes healing like Reiki or Shen or anything else. So you basically start becoming more and more saturated with this sacred energy of Akasha, to the point that you can then begin to peel the layers. And you know how people say that we're like an onion?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you believe that?
Yeah, I think that we're pretty deep. We have a lot to us.
We're
Yeah.
not like an onion at all.
What are we
And
like?
no, we're not like an onion. An onion makes us cry. We are like an artichoke,
I love artichokes.
not
Okay.
like an onion.
Because you're trying
But
to get to the heart of everything, I think.
when I get to the
That's the best
heart,
part,
huh?
right?
So you have an artichoke and you start peeling all those thick leaves on the outside, and little by little you start getting closer and closer and closer and closer to the heart. You finally get there, you enjoy the ride, and now can you eat the heart? No, you can't. You have to clean all those hairy little things on top of the heart before you can take a bite. So this is the journey. So we have to be patient with the journey to be able to understand that the journey is sweet, that spirituality is not difficult. I hear a lot of people that said to me, oh, it sounds so difficult. Well, if you believe that it is, then it is, because believing that something is difficult is a belief. And we started this conversation with beliefs. Beliefs create your reality. Beliefs create the condition of your mind. So if you believe that it's difficult, then it will be. But I tell you, and I tell all of my students, hundreds, thousands of students, it is not difficult. You just have to believe. So once you change the channel, once you replace that old antiquated belief for something new that is going to empower you, that is going to make your whole body feel like an Alka-Seltzer, sprinkling alive with aliveness, then you awaken the crystalline nature. And within the crystalline nature, then we can get to the point of start looking at the mildly fragmented pieces of the soul, or the unresolved issues, karmic issues from the past. So the more we start doing this work, well, first of all, the medium and severely fragmented pieces will not show up. They're going to be waiting. It's like in the psyche. Your psyche doesn't tolerate imbalances. So these issues are going to be waiting in the back here to see how you handle the mildly fragmented pieces. What are you going to do about it? Are you going to integrate it? Many times the question in shamanic practices or with the Akashic records is, why should I go back if there's a fragment piece of the soul because you were severely angered, you beat somebody else, beat somebody up at the peak of that experience of anger or being drunk or jealous or severely depressed, etc., at the peak of that moment, of that experience, you lose a piece of your consciousness. A part of you gets disconnected, and it goes away until you can look at it again and then have a dialogue with that soul piece, that fragmented piece, and convince that piece to come back. So the medium and the mildly and the severely fragmented pieces may say to you, why should I go back if you let me go in the first place? So we have to learn the art of questioning, the art of dialoguing with parts of ourselves that have been disconnected, parts of ourselves that have not been fully acknowledged, that we have pushed down because maybe our parent or a father has not hit you in the back of the head and said, who do you think you are? You have no artistic abilities. You don't know how to do your math. Are you dumb, stupid? What's the matter with you? All of these are impressions by a figure of authority. I remember being about 7 years old in kindergarten or first grade, and the teacher came with the vase, put it in there with some flowers, gave us some watercolors, and she said, paint that. I felt like I was Michelangelo. I felt like I had this palette. I was painting this thing. And the teacher walked by, stood right next to me, and she went, huh, that doesn't look anything like it. In those 10 or 15 seconds of interaction, this little mind, as a 7-year-old, 7-year-old, was completely crushed by a figure of authority. And I put my pens, my brushes down, and I completely stopped painting. My artistic abilities disappeared until I was about 19 years old. And then I was doing some meditation practices that brought this memory back for me. And then I realized that it was not me. It was this figure of authority, this external influence that caused me to put away the paintbrushes and to feel that I was not artistic anymore. So the me at that moment came back to dialogue with the me at 6 years old and made him understand that it was not his fault. It was this dumb teacher that told that to a child. And then within 3 weeks, I was creating. And then after that, within a year, I was making beautiful artwork in leather, different than any other artwork. And then I put myself through college doing artwork like this. So the reward of healing is huge, but we have to be willing to look at ourselves and to look at all the shortcomings, to look at all the negativities that we have created. Where are we today in our lives? In this lecture that I just gave, I asked the audience a question: who is running the show? Is it you or is your emotions? And for most people, it's the emotions. I also asked a group of 300 people, how many of you are suffering from anger? And I was shocked to see that probably 90% or more of the audience raise their hand. Anger is one of those energies that to me is so ugly that needs to be addressed immediately. And there is no better tool to look at anger, jealousy, dislike, poverty, anything than the Akashic Records. When did this seed was planted in the consciousness? In this life? In a previous life? Makes no difference. This is his life. This is so close. Is my previous life. And then this is my previous life. And this is 3 lifetimes ago. So it's not that far within the Akashic fields. So as long as we know how to jump into the fields and with the right art of questioning, navigate back to the moment of inception, when that seed of anger was planted, what were the conditions? What were the circumstances? Who contribute to that being happen? Once you arrive at that moment, then you can forgive everyone because that happened then. So let's forgive and let go. So once you do that, you liberate yourself.
All right. So we just talked about a type of healing, which was more emotional. What about, I know that there are past lives that people have experienced where, so you say, for example, they were riding a horse, they were in a battle, and they got shot with an arrow through their shoulder. And in this lifetime, they've had a chronic issue with their shoulder. They understand the past life and they go in and they heal that physical ailment and it completely disappears. So, is there a way also, in addition to these emotional issues and baggage and scars that we're carrying, to also potentially heal physical ailments that we're experiencing in this lifetime, however they were created, I guess?
Of course. Of course there is. But there's a belief as well, right? Our bodies are constantly regenerating, constantly. The lining of our stomach is brand new every 72 hours. The lining of our mouth is also brand new every 48 to 72 hours. Every soft organ in our body is brand new every 5 to 7 years. The bones, our dense bones, they regenerate and they become brand new every 7 to 9 years. Okay, so our bodies are constantly regenerating. So why is it that there is this chronic pain? Okay. If it comes from a previous life, okay, you go back to that previous life, you look at it, and the fact that you were shot with an arrow or someone cut your head off, like they did here, they did that, like they did for me here in France back in the 1700s. That's why the Frenchies treat me so well, because I feel guilty. But so we can go back and heal that, but we have to look at the emotional component, at the emotional imprint that issue left behind. That is the key. In the same way that in this lifetime, if someone has chronic stomach pain or fibromyalgia, this mysterious thing, or neck pain or shoulder pain, whatever it is, you go back to the moment of the inception of that condition. What happened? Well, maybe a horse hit me in my stomach, or maybe I fell off a swing when I was a kid. I'm swinging really happy. My friends are there, and one of my friends pushes me really hard. I lose balance. I fall down on my butt. I hurt. My friends now start laughing at me and mocking me. So there is there's two issues. One is the fact that I fell down and I injured myself. Then there's the emotional component. I felt ridiculed by my friends. And what is the imprint? Feeling ridicule in my life? Maybe that I am not willing to speak in public because I feel too small, I'm insignificant. What your father and your mother just said to you after you fell down: what's the matter with you? Are you stupid? Don't, I told you not to go into a swing like that you were going to hurt yourself. So all of these little things that come into the consciousness of that child or that individual are there, running like a never-ending tape, just constantly. So we have to go back. Now, if there's physical injury from early in this lifetime, then, and I also mentioned that the body regenerates itself every 72 hours to 9 years. Okay, what happens many times is that we create, unconsciously, of course, a cookie cutter pattern in the body part where we experience the pain or the discomfort. So if it's in the shoulder, just imagine that we put right here a cookie cutter in which the cells of our shoulder regenerate with the pattern of dysfunction that happened during the time of the accident. So everything else is normal. The rest of the arm feels pretty good. The neck feels good. Everything is good except for the shoulder. So what happens is that this program is still active right here with the memory of being mocked, of feeling small, insecure, insignificant, etc., etc., etc. So what we have to do, and we can do it very easily with the Akashic Records, is we go back to that moment in time. We break the cookie cutter consciously. Okay, we break the cookie cutter. We allow the dysfunctional cells to leave the shoulder, and new cells are going to start taking over. So we start healing from within. I mean, we don't have time here to share so many things. I mean, there are very specific meditations that I teach in which you minimize yourself to be a little tiny you. And then you enter your body either through your mouth or through your nose. And then you have to learn you have to know the anatomy, but you can travel inside of your body to the body part where you have the pain and the discomfort, the injury. And if you know the anatomy, then you know what that body part looks like when it's healthy and active and strong and vibrant and all that. Now, by being inside of your body, you can look at that body part and see the dysfunction. And then once you're there, then you start calling the red blood cells, the red blood cells to come and start regenerating the function of that body part. It's not that difficult. You just have to know how to do it.
Wow. Yeah, I've
Yeah.
never heard anybody talk about this before. This is fascinating. So one of the things I talked about in the very beginning when I was introducing you is that you've mapped the Akashic records and you work with masters and teachers for the Akashic record. So will you explain a little bit about what you mean by that? And I'm sure that this is somewhat more, in a lot more detail in your book.
Yeah. Uh, Definitely, any individual that has walked down this earth and has balanced 100% of their karma has attained enlightenment, complete and
Mm.
total enlightenment, not partial enlightenment. So that individual, when he passes away, they basically move to the realm of Akasha, and they become Akashic Masters. Some of them we know, some we don't know. Lord Jesus Christ is one of them, is a master of Akasha. The Lord Buddha is a master of Akasha. Confucius, the master of Akasha. There are so many of the Buddhas, Mary Magdalene, Virgin Mary, Green Tara, Padmasambhava, so many individuals that have walked down this earth, and they have mastered their field of emotions. They have arrived at a point of complete and total equanimity, and they have been able to move to higher dimensional frequencies. Some of them have made the choice or the commitment to stay like a bodhisattva, much closer to the planet Earth, to be able to be of service to us, because we need guidance, we need direction. And some of them have moved so far up that they do not come down to a lower, more dense level, like the physical level, to provide guidance and service and illumination. So when we enter the Akashic Records, is almost as if we enter a library. I call it the Library of Congress of the Soul. So just imagine this incredibly vast, huge library that has information about anything that you can possibly think or want. No limitations whatsoever. So this library has several functions. One is the function of you getting into that library and do absolutely nothing. Just be in the space of that library, in the space of Akasha, where you can sit down very comfortably, read a book or listen to music, and absorb the healing energy that Akasha provides for you, because is the energy of the most sublime and pure love. And in my emails, you have received a few of mine. I write at the end, part of my signature is, love is the strongest medicine. So if we can truly be in the full presence of love, and every bone, every cell of our body is absorbing that, then we're being healed by that. However, if we need information because we're curious people and we want to know, then we can go to the front desk of the library, and there's going to be some masters of Akasha there, in which we can simply ask for the daily weather report. What do I need to know about my life today? Or arrive at the end of your day, you open your Akashic Records and you review your day, your actions, etc., with the masters of Akasha that are right there. Now, if you want to be more specific, because there is something that you want to know specifically, maybe you're an artist and you want to know how to perfect your stained glass artwork. Okay, so you have arrived or achieved a level of mastery within stained glass. Okay, but you can go to the Akashic Records and ask for the masters that have the expertise in stained glass to come out and tutor you. So those masters that have that expertise will come out of the Akashic field, and they will become your direct teacher. And then they can stay with you. You can dialogue with them. You can ask for suggestions, for inspiration, etc., and they will give it to you, because that's what they're for. So the masters are there to inspire us, to guide us. And again, it's a belief. Some people may listen to this and go, oh my God, that's just completely nuts. Yes, I am. I am completely
You're not,
crazy.
well, if you are, then I am too, because a few weeks ago I released a video that talked about how people could connect to masters on the other side to help them with different projects. If you're a writer, why not connect to Agatha Christie, who sold 1 billion books? So I'd never heard of it though as accessing it through the Akashic record, which is just another level of how to think about how people exist on the other side, right?
Right. Well, now whether Agatha Christie achieved that level of mastery to move into the Akashic Records or not, that I don't know, but her writings were pretty dark. Okay. So I rather connect to a master that has truly, that was truly enlightened. That's how I write my books. I just finished writing a book. It's 380 some pages. And the only thing that I do is I create an outline, a chapter outline of what I want to talk about. I read the chapter, I read the word, I open my Akashic Records and I ask for inspiration. And then I just start writing, and that's it.
Oh, so this is interesting. So do you think that the Akashic records are the place that the downloads come that we get?
Well, yes and no. Yes, if that individual that is receiving the download has been working with the spirituality to awaken that crystalline nature that I talk about, then yes, very, very possible. And no, because okay, the Akashic records are the highest plane of vibratory frequency that exists in the universe. Now, below that, and within the understanding of our world, below that is the etheric plane. Below the etheric plane is the causal plane. Below the causal plane is the astral plane, and below that is the physical plane.
That's hilarious.
I have
Zoom.
no idea how that happened.
It's Zoom.
So
That was your spirit confirmation, Ernesto.
that's funny, huh? So if someone, and this happens frequently with psychics, for example, that they say that they are receiving their information from Akasha, when in reality they're receiving their information from the etheric plane. Now, the etheric plane, I call it the playground of the gods. It's a great space. Every one of us, most of us have been there when we're in deep meditation. If we connect with our spirit guides or with angels, they are not in the Akashic plane. They are in the etheric plane, and they're there to guide us. The etheric plane is far more accessible to us than the Akashic plane, because for the plane of Akasha, you truly have to have a connection, a deep connection that is going to happen between you and the field of Akasha. Otherwise, you simply bypasses you. But the etheric plane is right there. And if we are connected to the angelic realm or to our spirit guides, many times those are the words of advice. You're driving down the street and a road, and you get turned left right here instead of continue straight. If we pay attention and we do that, maybe we avoid an accident that is just a mile ahead. And that is not a master of Akasha giving us that information. It can be an angel or a spirit guide, because they're more in the physical plane.
Wow. So, in other words, if we can learn and potentially master these techniques, then we are able to access the highest vibration and the masters that have those vibrations to bring that into our earthly existence.
The highest vibration that we can achieve at that moment.
Okay, at that moment, that makes
Yeah.
sense.
So if we have been vibrating at 200 hertz, okay, we can say that is a low frequency. Okay, we start working with the Akashic Records, and then by being in the Akashic Record energy, our energy goes to 400 hertz. So now you have from 0 to 400 available to you to explore. You continue working with the Akashic Records 6 months later, a year later, instead of 400 hertz, you are now vibrating at 900 hertz. So now you have the space available for far more information for you to retrieve from 0 to 900 hertz. Now, I also mentioned that the Akashic fields are unlimited, and they're the field of unlimited potential, and that is precisely why. So the more you work with the Akashic Records, the more you fine tune your energy You fine-tune your frequencies, and the more you do that, the more you awake the crystalline nature, and only higher frequencies can only exist, or higher dimensional frequencies can only exist in higher vibratory rates, like the crystalline nature. Higher frequencies cannot exist in lower dimensions like the carbon self. So someone that is angry all the time, someone that is jealous all the time, someone that is depressed all the time, they cannot access higher dimensional frequencies because their brains are not equipped with the right bundles of neurons that can accommodate higher dimensional frequencies.
That makes so much sense.
Just so simple.
It's so simple, but yes. And you know what? Do you know why it's so simple? Because that's your belief system, that it's so simple. And that needs to be everybody's belief system,
I
that
would
it's
hope
so
so.
simple.
I would hope
I
so.
love that. So, Ernesto, this has been such an enlightening conversation. I have learned many things that I didn't know before. You are a great teacher. You're great at explaining these
Oh,
concepts that I think are a little bit more
you're too
abstract,
kind.
right?
Too kind.
Oh, thank you. So, if people want to work with you specifically, I know that you do a lot in this world to help people to have a better understanding. So, I think the most simple way, if somebody doesn't want to, can't work with you directly, is that they can connect with your books and the material that you have sent out into the world. So, tell us a little bit about what you've created and how people can find the material that you've created about this.
Well, I think that the easiest way is by going to my website, journeytotheheart.com, and there is everything there, classes, retreats that I teach in different places around the world. I'm taking a group to Nepal in May. I have an Akashic Record retreat in Bali in September, which I do annually. I teach the first 3 levels of the Akashic Records. In the website, there are many, there's a link that says free stuff. And there is a lot of wonderful meditations, meditation for protection, many mantras. That to me is one of the most important aspects of my life and my spirituality, mantras, because they're sacred words that were given to us by an enlightened master. So when we chant the mantras and we repeat them, then we again are taking in, it's almost like we're drinking this liquid light that goes into our brain to nurture and awaken our brain to the sacredness of the mantras that we use, or that I use. So
Well,
I
so
think that
can you share real quick maybe just one sacred mantra that you could share with the audience?
sure, I'm going to share 2. One,
Okay.
one that is very simple, and I've been chanting this mantra for the past 50 years. I use a mala every single day. A mala is like a Buddhist rosary. It has 108 or 111 beads, and you take it in your hand and you chant with it. This is a mantra of compassion. And I think that everyone needs to understand compassion and be compassionate towards others. So this is a very simple mantra. It's known as a 6-syllable mantra, and is the Om Mani Padme Hum. So it's Om Mani Padme Hum. Om
Om
Mani
Mane Padme Om.
Hum Hum.
Om.
Om Mani
Om
Padme
Mani
Padme
Padme
Hum.
Hom. Okay.
Hum.
Okay.
Hum. Hum.
Hum.
Om
Okay.
Mani Padme Hum. So that's the mantra of compassion. I do 10 malas a day. Takes about 20 minutes of Om Mani Padme Hum. So you just take my mala and I start going Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum. So I chant mantras every day. And there is another mantra that is a little more complicated. I don't know if you're going to be able to repeat the whole thing, but is the mantra that was given to us by Prajna Parmita. Prajna Parmita is known as the mother of the Buddhas, Buddhas of the past, the present, and the future. And her mantra is a very powerful mantra. Is known as the mantra of mantras, the uppermost or outmost mantra, because of the meaning of it. And what it means is go way beyond what you perceive to be your maximum potential. And that is the basis of my teachings. That is what I want everyone to embrace, to know your maximum potential. And if this is the level of your maximum potential right now, acknowledge it. If it's here, great. If it's here, it's great. If it's here, it's great, no matter where it is. But you take a tool like the Akashic Records, you bring it into your life, you enter a sacred space all the time, and that maximum potential, as I was talking about a little bit ago, is going to go up for you to perceive more. So your maximum potential is unlimited, and you have to believe that. We have to let go of the preconceived ideas or notions or what other figures of authority have told us in the past, that you're not good enough, that you're insignificant, that you're dumb, and all that. Let it go. It doesn't belong to you. And embrace the power of this mantra. And this mantra is Om Gate Gate Paragate Parasam Gate Bodhi Soha. Om Gate Gate Paragate Parasam Gate Bodhi Soha. Go way beyond what you perceive to be your maximum potential.
Well, what I love about this is that you shared something in a video context and everybody can rewind and listen to it until they have it.
Or they can go to my website, go to the link that says free stuff, and I have there all of the mantras that I use with my groups. And the most important part about mantras is to understand the meaning of the mantra. Because I have had many students, I have learned the Om Mane Padme Hum with a previous teacher, but I never knew what it meant. So if you don't have the understanding of the meaning of something, it's not going to be significant.
Okay, I'm curious really quick. Why couldn't you, if you didn't want to say that mantra, why couldn't you just take that idea and say, go way beyond? Why wouldn't that work the same as the mantra?
Because the words of the mantras were given to us by an enlightened master. And the words of the mantras, the same way as with the words of the Akashic Record prayer, are encoded in light language and sacred geometry. So when we utter those words, there is something that happens in our mind by saying the words that connects us to the sacred energy as it was originally given to us by the master that gave us the mantra.
Okay, I'm so glad you explained that, and I'm so glad I asked.
Yes, me too.
Excellent. Oh my gosh. Well, Ernesto, I am so happy to have had this time with you. And I hope that everybody can connect with you. I have one last question. So you mentioned a long time ago for you, you worked with a teacher who opened up the Akashic records. So do you do readings with people where they come to you and you help open the Akashic records for them and you can actually access and read them and tell them what they say, or do you only work with them to empower them to open it themselves and access it?
Okay, I do both, although my time for consultations is extremely limited, unfortunately, especially when I'm teaching. I simply, I give so much when I'm sitting there in front of a group and I teach that by the time the end of the day comes, I just want to rest, watch a movie and chill out. And so it is difficult for me to give consultations when I'm traveling. However, on my website, there is a list of certified consultants. And these are individuals that have gone through the process of getting certified, and they have been reviewed by me and my team. And we have a process of recertification every 2 years to make sure that everyone stays in the space of integrity, which is the most important aspect of this. I mean, you don't want to go to anyone that tells you, I read the Akashic Records, without knowing where they come from, who was their teacher, how they learn it, how this material has impacted their lives, all of these. Because if they come from the head and not from the heart, then you're going to get a very shallow consultation from someone. So if I have the time, I absolutely do it. Sometimes between the US and France, or if I am in other places like Hong Kong or whatever, the time difference can be 10, 11 hours or so. It's a little more difficult, but I do my best. If someone sends me a request and I know that I can't, then I redirect them to the website, and I say choose someone that you resonate with by looking at their picture and have a consultation with them.
Wonderful. So I'm so grateful for our time. Do you think you might want to come back and talk to us again when your book gets published in September?
Absolutely, anytime you want. It will be my pleasure.
Oh, I would love that. I would love that. Well, I am so happy for our time today and for everything you shared. Thank you for everything you're doing to help wake up the collective consciousness. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Lori. It's been a pleasure. Thank you for doing what you do with your channel to be able to bring this information that you put out, that is put out by others, and make it available to the people in the world. So
It is
thank you.
my greatest privilege. It is. It truly is. And thank you so much, everybody, for watching.
That's right. Thank you, everybody. Come back and see you soon.
Next up, check out this playlist of other NDE interviews. Please like and subscribe. It really helps this channel to grow so I can bring you more content. Thank you for watching. I'm so glad you're here.